The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Gunzo. Giddy up, right into my ear holes, baby. Wow, you are
really low.
high. You are higher than Snoop Dogg on 420.
You're super low. Why is that?
Because you overpay your producer.
Now you're good. Now you sound good.
I have no idea. I underpay mine. You overpay yours. You got to pay them less so that they stay in line.
Every week.
You got to crack the whip over there, man.
Every week.
Hey, welcome to the show, guys. Failure to stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Until we get canceled by the network, and then we'll stop.
Yeah.
I guess. And, you're gonna be in town with the boys this weekend, Super Bowl weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, baby.
With the old drinking
Flying
bros.
on Friday.
And it's there that Ross and Dan will sit you down and break the news to you.
Like, we wanted to bring you to the Super Bowl party to inform you that not only will we not be changing the art on the cover, but you're not going to have a show next year. So
we know that we said we were going to do a year, but it's done now. It's over.
Yeah, it's over.
What do you mean? Like, we got one more show? No more shows. Zero more.
You know why? Because Joe Rogan used the N-word 10 years ago.
Wait, our show's getting canceled because Joe Rogan said the N-word? Like, well, you've talked about Joe on your show a number of times, and so this guilt by association isn't something the network can tolerate.
Yeah. Well, it was the best thing that we could do on Black History Month is get rid of you two guys.
It was a show of solidarity with BLM. We wanted to get rid of the cop show on the network in order to pacify the angry mob.
Yeah, because it's, I love their title of their last episode, which was "Rules for Me, Rules for Thee, and Not for Me." And gosh, dude, it's getting out of hand with all these big time ruling elitists, the ruling class.
It is getting out of hand, dude.
Just the hypocrisy is insanity. I used to not care. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, do whatever you want.
I care now.
And I've tried not to let it, ever affect me because I just don't care. But now when I see somebody wearing a mask, I'm just like, and they're, especially because nobody's wearing them right. Nobody's wearing the N95. All the science, all the data is out there, and you're still doing it. You're still just obeying the man. You're still just part of the machine. And now I'm annoyed by it because I feel like
frustrating.
I feel like you're just trying to virtue signal, just trying to say like, look at me, I'm Mr. Obedient. It's like the dude that wore the little hall belt in fifth grade, the little orange belt that would stop you from running to the bus. It's like you don't really have that power,
safety.
right?
Yeah, a lot of those guys went on to be cops.
No, they didn't pass the psyche val.
Guys, on today's show, we're doing a big old news roundup. You'll also fair warning and disclosure when you are watching this on Friday. It'll be a little time travel event, but Tansey and I are going to be live in the chat, but he will be traveling to Austin when the show would normally be broadcast live. So the show will be live on the internet, but it will be pre-recorded. But we will be in the chat interacting with you all, so we can actually have more conversation in the chat this Friday. And if you're listening to the show for the first time, welcome. You'll probably be either really excited that you're here or really offended. One of the two. There's really not a ton of middle ground here with Failure to Stop. But if you have stumbled into the show, thank you for listening. And also on Friday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, we do broadcast the show live. And outside of Friday, we do have, sometimes we'll record at night and do a live stream. We just call that night shift when we do that. And then we have guests on. We'll do different stuff at different times, et cetera, et cetera. So welcome to the shit show that is Failure to Stop podcast. We're glad to have you. And thank you to those who take the time out of their precious, precious days to leave reviews. And Eric, you had a conversation with someone this week that does not have an Apple device
Yeah.
and couldn't leave a review on Apple Podcasts, but they sent you a review to
They
be
did.
read out loud. So
It was a weird week for messages. You know, we always get just inundated with messages about news and articles and look into this and look into that. And those are great. We appreciate them. I do often look into them, but this week was a lot of messages, just about how we're doing, about how much people appreciate the show. And I usually respond to those as quickly as I can. And some guy just said, hey, man, I really would love to review and rate your show, but I don't have an iPhone and Spotify doesn't allow it. So I said, hey, homie, if you send us a review, I'll read it live on air. And so he did. And I had it pulled up. Let's see if I can pull it back up. Go on. Read a review while I figure out where this thing went.
all right, I'll pull one up here. Best night pod ever, says the Real Roadhouse. 5 stars. These 2 former pig taints are the coolest cats to come out of the closet. Their sense of humor is off the charts hilarious. You guys say things how they are. No sugar nipple coating. Anything not surprised by the censorship treatment on YouTube. Mike Hawk, the random foul comments you make are hilarious. What? Wait, who's Mike Hawk? Like, is there a guy that regularly comments or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
I understand the joke. I'm saying,
For a second,
is
I'm
there
like,
no? Is there someone that regularly pops up in the chat that puts
No.
that name? So I'm just wondering what the reference was. Tansey, your trooper Marine jokes are to die for, coming from a state trooper and Marine. I watch, listen to you guys all the time in the patrol car. Keep up the great work. Hey, Real Roadhouse, thanks so much, and make sure you keep that hat high and tight there.
Yut yut, semper fi, hoorah, devil
Or is
dog,
it low?
yut yut.
You want a low hat. High. Your haircut is high and tight. Your hat is low. And
Every time I go to Austin, I try to get a fresh haircut. And literally the last 3 times I've gone to the Drinking Bros main studio, my haircut has been 100% butchered, which is why we have that stupid caricature of me with like the shaved side head, because whatever that idiot was decided to shave the whole side of my head and do a hard part. So I need a haircut, but I'm not going to get one because
no,
every
you
time.
got to do it. No, you got to
Every
do it,
time.
man.
But the next review comes from Robbie Humble. Good morning, Wolfpack. Failure to stop. Great name, but very misleading. Mike the Cop makes sure everyone involved comes to a satisfying and complete finish, while Eric, the rum runner Tansey, gets a guy started up like it's his main purpose in life. The USA chant during Ghost Bed reads is the crank start to my engine. Then Eric and Mike tag team you with rich information and witty banter. Every guest has been amazing with relevant input, but for some reason, most of them were not given God-given birth government names, just initials. I'll finish with a quote someone might say they've heard Dan Holloway say. I dipe up before watching each show, just in case the information causes me to piss and or shit myself out of shock or laughter. Guns up, giddy up. Thanks, Robbie. That was very, very well thought out, articulated.
Very well thought out.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
very, very well. He should write for a living. Maybe we should start a blog and he can just write for us on our behalf. Share our thoughts. Summarize each show. I don't know, something. I apologize, guys. I am I'm like clearing my throat constantly. Shortly before we started recording, I was taking a sip of my glorious coffee, and some of it went down the wrong pipe, as it were, and it is really ruining my life right now. It's taking all of my mental concentration. I'm fighting for my life over here to not cough my brains out. It's bad. We got one more review from the Wolfpack to share with you guys, and the reason we read these we're not trying to pat ourselves on the back. Quite seriously, a lot of this has to do with our ad reads because people love the ad reads. But you took the time to write them, so we want to take the time to acknowledge them, and thank you for taking the time to do it. So the funnier and wittier it is, the more likely it is to make the show. But Brader Wayment, if I can read that correctly, says Wolfpack leader Scott Rogers is my spirit animal. 5 stars. When I was a little wolf pup, I dreamed of the day I could belong to a pack like this one. I would look at the stars and see Scott Rogers calling for me to join his tribe. I would never answer his call to giddy up, got my finger guns up, and wandered through the land until, alas, I found the Wolfpack, a place where I belong, a place where I'm not judged for having mouth blisters or 1900 Tansey on speed dial. Thank you, Wolfpack. Thank you.
When I was a little wolf pup, do 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 do. Just
Well,
kidding.
thank you
You'll
guys
never
so
be a
much.
part of the Wolfpack. So
What
go
kid?
kill yourself.
What?
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
You
just kidding.
shattered
Welcome
all
to the
his hopes
Wolfpack.
and dreams.
Welcome to the
Oh
Wolfpack.
boy, welcome to the Wolfpack, my friend. You have a place here. This episode is brought to you by none other than our flagship sponsor here and on the Drinkin' Bros podcast, all over the Tetherball network, Ghostbed, of which I sleep on every night. I've got my Ghostbed Flex, and I absolutely love it. I sleep like a baby nestled between mom's bosoms each night.
He loves his ghost bed. He loves the cooling technology. So when he's doing 75 hard, he can stay cool, baby. Every mattress has a 20-year warranty. Some have 25. You can try it out for 101 nights. Not 98, not 99, but 101. That's a lot of nights. If you don't like it, you can send it back. No hard problems, but you won't. One of my favorite things about Ghost Bed is that it's made in the good old USA. Yeah, baby. Ghost Bed also offers
Oh my
bundles.
gosh,
Whoop. Do we get
you're
it?
hot. You're so hot. You're so hot right now.
It's just in
saw
the,
Jimmy stand up.
Let me just turn that down a little bit.
Whoa.
Is that better?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
Should
I don't know
just
what's
back
going on
away
over
from the
there
mic?
in North Carolina.
Should I just back away from the mic?
Maybe. I couldn't tell you.
Well, Ghost Bed also offers bundles so that you can get everything you need. You don't even have to really think about it. Just choose from their 4 mattresses and pick your bundle, whether you just need a mattress and a frame or you want it all.
I want it all,
I want it all
and I want it now.
now. Like their cooling pillows and sheets, you can get the best bang for your buck. Right now, GhostBed is offering 40% off GhostBed bundles where you get a mattress and adjustable base at 30% off if you use that promo code DrinkinBros, DRINKIN Bros, at ghostbed.com/Drinkin' Bros. You can buy a mattress for like $35 a month, 0 down, 0% financing. This is if you have State Trooper credit. Go check out ghostbed.com/Drinkin' Bros.
Drinking Bros.
35 a month, 0 down, 0% financing for like 60 months. And look, if you're a trooper/Marine with 3 ex-wives, this might be the payment plan for you, baby.
Yeah. And congratulations. You're right on pace if you've got 3.
Keeping it in brand.
What's 3 ex-wives is probably like, I don't know, that's 18 to 21 years in. Is pretty normal for 2 or 3. So you're doing well for yourself.
Yeah.
There you go. Today's show, we've got a big old news roundup. We dumped just a metric shit ton of law enforcement and culture where they meet. News articles, things from around the interwebs to just throw up, discuss, and see where it goes. First of all, we here at the Failure to Stop podcast want to stop Asian hate. It is an issue near and dear to our hearts. We talk about it all the time off stream. Eric and I both started the Society of Wolfpack Against Asian Hate. I don't know what the acronym is. If we could type that out so I can make up an acronym on the fly. The Society of Wolfpack Against Asian Hate. SWA.
Yeah, I'm just not going to support WCW anymore.
Yeah. So
WWF,
Joe
whatever
Rogan
it was.
is the compilation of him dropping the N-word, completely out of context, of course, over the last however many years of his show, is now The Rock is coming after him. So the Rock, ever the hero standing upon the moral high ground, has criticized Joe Rogan. But
Wait, did he really criticize him?
yes.
Because then his post about being like against the Spotify stuff or whatever, The Rock commented about wanting to go on his show or something.
Well, The Rock, maybe he's looking for an opportunity. Eric, fill us in. Fill us in on what you know about The Rock. You actually interviewed him, right? Did you go to his house?
I wish.
Is that what has happened?
I know that originally he came out and backed Joe Rogan, and then now he's flip-flopped, and he no longer backs
I'm not even sure Joe Rogan backs Joe Rogan right now. He's done 2 apology videos in the last week, probably at the demand of Spotify, his current contractual boss.
So he said, I was not aware of his inward use prior to my comments, but now I've become educated to his complete narrative. That's what he wrote Friday on Twitter. Anyway, the thing is one, I'm thankful that we're not being played as Americans. I'm glad that there's a lot of transparency here. It's not like we have primaries coming up starting in the next 4 months.
It's weird.
So
all of a sudden,
can,
we don't have to report COVID deaths anymore, and we're focused on Joe Rogan's show
mask
about
mandates
racism.
are going
all
away
that's disappearing
right now.
Weird, huh?
Misinformation. There was a lot of misinformation by the media, but that's okay because they're allowed to give out misinformation. But when Joe Rogan gives out good information that's not misleading or fake, we'll go ahead and do whatever we can to cancel them. And if you can't see that the establishment, the ruling class, is doing whatever they can to ruin this guy, then
he's a threat, and the reason he's a threat is we might have mentioned this before on our show, but what is going on right now? Just ignore it. Oh, well, I can't ignore it because it was in my ears. Anyway, Joe Rogan is getting, when the numbers have recently been published, 11 million downloads an episode. To put that in perspective, Fox News has 3 million viewers on average, and CNN and NBC combined, Fox News is beating. So, I mean, he represents, and it's not just Joe Rogan. It's Joe Rogan. It's Steven Crowder. It's James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. It is Andy Frisella. It is a bunch of content creators and outspoken voices. They are a major, major threat. They have to try to shut him down because he is influencing literally 4 to 5 times more people than the news outlets that they're trying to leverage to give out false information. And the reason we even bring this up is because now that we're in this podcast space, we're in this space, we don't even have that large of a show, and we are being censored on many fronts. And
look at last episode. Look at the last episode. Just the title alone. We've never, ever, ever had a problem streaming. Our internet didn't dive. We looked at all the back end things. Internet was running perfectly smooth. The feed was getting dropped every few minutes. We were losing. We'd go from 0 listeners all the way up to 400 listeners, down to 200 listeners in split seconds. That's never happened in the history of this show. And what do we have? 40 episodes, something like that. 44 episodes.
Yeah, I think this is like episode 43 or something.
We've never ever had anything like that, and it was just because of the title of the show. Of course, then the show before that with the synagogue hostage situation. They went in the back end of YouTube and cut out, 45 seconds of our show in multiple spots. So,
yeah. And the question is how legal should some of this censorship be, given that we're on these private platforms? But I liken it very much to the law of, like, I'm pretty sure most states are the same, right? OWI, DWI, whatever you call it, drunk driving, even though, let's say, a grocery store parking lot is technically private property, you can still be pulled over or arrested for drunk driving in that lot because of the reason that the private lot is generally accessible to the public. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Google, wherever, the internet and these places that they don't have a requirement other than just being of a certain age to sign up, it's generally accessible to the public. Should those same type of laws be applicable here, where it's like, hey, listen, we have certain rights as citizens of the country, and if these platforms are going to be free and generally accessible to the public, shouldn't those rights transcend that digital space? I think it's a really valuable conversation to be had. Not that we are going to be the bastions, the lighthouse that guides everyone home in culture here. But I mean, I think we have a voice. We might as well use it to say the right things.
I think we're in like unprecedented times. I mean, maybe it's not unprecedented. I think this has happened before, somewhere around the 1700s, late 1700s. I think there was something like this that started to happen. But I think people are tired of it. And I think there's big changes ahead. And I think the government, I think the ruling class understands that now. I think they went way too far in the last 3 years, 4 years.
Got overzealous, man.
And they're realizing right now that they don't have the power that they thought they had.
I really
and,
think.
And now it's really coming out. Like, it's really starting to show its face. I mean, you got Georgia Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams. Case in point, showing up to a school reading. And I've got inside information on this.
That picture angers me, dude. If you guys aren't watching this, Stacey Abrams is sitting there,
but this
big smile, mask free, while a classroom of kids are forced to have masks on their face. This is brainwashing. This is psychological abuse.
I did some back research on this photo, and the principal has come out and stated that she said she would not enter that room until every single person was masked. When she got in there, she did her reading without a mask on, and then she turned around and had all the kids get around her and take a picture. Now, again, there's a disconnect between the ruling class. I don't even want to call them Republicans and Democrats anymore. I just want to call it the ruling class.
They're all the same.
Because they're all the same. And so she comes out. Obviously, we have this picture, and we have the back statements from the teachers, from the principal, stating how strict she was. We all know Stacey Abrams. She's been in the news. She hasn't been shy from the news since she's, for the last 2 years. This isn't her first fuck up. She can't hide from this, but she comes out and rather apologizing or anything like that, she spins this as right-wing Republicans are using Black History Month and a Black History Month to make it political. Now, there's nothing political about this, and there's nothing right-winged about this. Democrats and Republicans, everybody is over this rules for me, not for the
rules
mentality
for thee, not for me.
That the ruling class have. This Gavin Newsom's been doing it.
The
Trudeau,
mayor of LA, quote unquote, holding his breath to take a photo so that everyone was safe. Like, okay.
Come on. I didn't inhale.
It's crazy that they literally, and here's the reality, guys. They think you're stupid. They think you're completely stupid. That's why they say these things. That's why they do these things, because they think they can. We have to stand up and say, no, we need to, these aren't laws. And that's why we're talking about this too. From a legal, practical law enforcement standpoint, no one branch of the government should just be able to make blanket mandates that cops go enforce at local municipalities. This is garbage. This is absolute garbage. My personal opinion is, if you are a cop that ever in any way, shape, or form enforces a mask mandate, turn your shit in. You suck. You're a disgrace. I don't care if you like me. Go unfollow us. Go unfollow me. You are the problem. You are helping to further tyranny. You're helping to further the eroding of law and order and a society based on fairness and equity. You are eroding that with your actions. Stop it. Just say no. We just need to say no and stand up. But that won't stop you from getting canceled these days.
And that's everybody needs to start saying no. When you show up to a restaurant, if you're still walking into a restaurant with a cloth mask, if you're not wearing an N95 mask and you're still wearing a cloth mask, stop.
It's dumb. It does nothing.
It's dumb.
The science is in.
The science is there. The science is in, baby. Yeah. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it.
Everyone knows it.
So when you walk into a restaurant with your stupid cloth mask on and you walk to your table and you pull it down and you eat your meal and you get up and you go to the bathroom without your mask, why did you put it on in the first place?
Exactly.
You're part of the problem.
And here's
Stop the virtue signaling.
Dude.
Stop the letting everyone know that you're obedient, that you follow these rules, that you're raging with the machine. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And the problem is, when you I talk to these people. I have conversations with people that still wear masks everywhere and stuff, and it's like, I know it's stupid, but I want to go to this restaurant. I want to eat. I want to do whatever. I'm like, you know how we can get there faster is by no one going anywhere. Stop it. Just stop going to any place that requires a mask to even get in. Just don't go there. If you don't
I
go
get it.
there,
We didn't know what the science was at the beginning, and you had to figure that out for yourself and make your own decisions. And I get it. And I never once shamed anybody for wearing a mask. Matter of fact, I stood up for people that wore masks. And I would wear masks within reason. If I felt like if it was going to do better for the people that I was around for me to wear a mask, I would wear the mask. But that was at the beginning. But now that the science is in, now that we know what's going on, now that we know that cloth masks were ridiculous from the beginning, and that if you weren't wearing an N95, it was absolutely worthless. At this
crazy,
point,
man.
You're just part of the problem. With Mayor Eric Garcetti, he's the nominee to become the U.S. ambassador to India. And he was recently criticized for not wearing a mask when he took a photo at a football game. I think he was with Michael Johnson, if I'm
Magic
not
Johnson,
mistaken.
yeah, the mayor of LA.
But he defended himself by saying he wasn't breathing while he posted. Why take the photo? You know what I mean? And here's another
Why
part
not?
of, like, misinformation.
Why not take the photo with your mask on to send the message that
Right.
this is so important?
Right, lead by example, but it's not
Because you're
we
a
have an
lying
integrity
sack of
problem.
shit. That's why.
And the ruling class has lived through lies. I mean, if you can watch the Trudeau case from the summer where he just refused to answer questions with a big smile on his face, knowing that he paid his family millions and millions of dollars from a nonprofit, but refuses to answer the questions. When you have people like the Clintons, like Bill Clinton, lying about the sex. I did not have sex with that woman. Yes, you did, and you lied before the courts. When you have President Obama saying, "I didn't inhale," I mean, come on, guys.
We all know, and it's the same thing played out over and over again. And the problem is our complacency, and that leads to us all being hypocrites, and it's annoying. Just like The Rock, which we went off on this little mandate tangent, but bringing it back to what we led in with The Rock, these elites end up they want to pacify the masses for their own gain. Do you think The Rock gives two shits about what Joe Rogan says? Let me clue you into how the world works. No, he doesn't. He doesn't care at all what happens on Joe Rogan's show because he probably never watches it, and he probably also doesn't care. He makes plenty of money without Joe Rogan. He doesn't care. So instead what he does is he thinks, oh, supporting Joe Rogan is a popular thing. I'm going to do that. Oh, wait. There's some people now it's kind of backfiring on me. I'm going to go back and say, oh, now that I know that he said these words in the past, like the president. See, here's the thing about The Rock. He made a video supporting Biden. Do you guys not understand that Biden said the N-word a bunch of times in his career? It's on camera. He has said racist comments about 7-Eleven owners. We'll talk about this in a little bit about Biden delivering crack pipes to the hood under the name of equality. He is the one that did mass incarceration bills and led the way to lock people up on crack, and now he's helping them smoke it. But The Rock, if The Rock wants to come out and cancel Joe Rogan and criticize Joe Rogan for past statements taken out of context, well, we got some audio of The Rock. Let's hear The Rock speaking some Chinese. Oh, wow. Man.
Is that? Yeah.
I guess no more. I will never watch Jumanji again.
Little does he know that was North Korean he was speaking. He wasn't even speaking Chinese. He was speaking
I
North
thought that
Korean.
was more Hmong. It sounded very Hmong, or maybe a unique dialect of Vietnamese.
It was North Korea, which is a subsect
Oh
of
yeah,
China.
that was definitely North Korean. You're right. Bunch of communists. So
Yes, so he can go out. It's just the hypocrisy is crazy, and the fact that the Rock is even getting involved in this, when it's like, the only reason that they're coming after Joe Rogan, and everybody knows it's not a Republican, it's not a Democrat thing. Everybody knows the reason why they're going after Joe Rogan is because he influenced everybody and he spoke the truth. He didn't speak it. Shit, Dr. Malone, Dr. McCullough, he asked those guys questions that
Yes.
came on their show.
Yes.
Anybody else could have came on Joe Rogan's show and refuted those. He would love to have let those people
He had
on. He has
Sanjay
everybody
Gupta
on.
on. He
Sanjay Gupta.
had a far left leaning network's doctor on.
And Sanjay Gupta made an ass of himself on that episode.
And he did.
An
And
absolute
Joe
ass.
Rogan
And had to
even
come
said,
out
I
and apologize
like
on
him.
CNN about it.
He says, I like Sanjay. He was a very good guest. He was a very nice guy. I have no problems with Sanjay. I enjoyed being with him and interviewing him and talking to him and getting to know him.
But he made
respects
Sanjay
him.
look like a complete idiot. And then Sanjay went back to CNN and said, well, I was being bullied. I was afraid that he was going to hurt me.
I was afraid he was going to UFC me.
The hypocrisy, it's just the ruling class has lost their minds. It's lost all control. Now we've got police raiding in the middle of the night, taking gas away from truckers. You've got
Oh my gosh.
armed
Yeah.
police. You know, one of the
let's take
nicest
a look at the
raids.
headline here.
Go ahead.
The trucker one. Whoa, that's a weird look.
Oh, John Cena.
All right, Canada trucker protest. We talked about that. Truckers for Trudeau. If you want to know our take on that, you can go back to that episode. Ottawa shifts to aggressive gear in policing, quote unquote, freedom convoy. First of all, so the subtitle is Police Arrest Those Attempting to Ferry Fuel and Food in Bid to End 11-Day Demonstration Against COVID-19 Vaccine Mandates. It's very important. It's very important to the spies listening to our show, whether it's the FBI or whether it's Google. We're not against vaccines, okay? But we are taking a stand against mandating that every human needs to inject themselves with a substance in a mass science experiment. It's the mandates. It's the mandates the truckers are having an issue with. It's not the vaccine itself. If people want to choose to get the vaccine, have at it. It's the mandating. It's the unilateral decision, like as if these countries are run by kings, right? Like they could just wave the wand and without legal process, without due process, just make these decisions. It's terrible. And cops are now participating in this to stop it. It's crazy.
I get it. It's Canada. I have to keep telling myself it's not America. It's Canada. And I tried to get a Canadian police officer to reach out to us, but we haven't had any yet reach out. I would love to know what your take is on this.
Can you put that article up, bud? Thank you. Yeah, just leave it up there for me.
But again, their laws are different. Their constitution is different. I guess they probably
it's a different thing.
You know
but
what I mean?
The
So they can.
The principle remains right. Because both countries claim to value freedom. I mean and there's only so many ways you can take that, right? Like you either allow individual freedom for their own bodies, the sovereignty over their own health, or you don't. I mean, all constitutional varieties.
What is the crime in
aside.
ferrying fuel and food to a demonstration? What law is on the books that says you can't do that?
Thank you. Exactly. And then what's interesting to me is, remember when all this started happening, and we talked about this in the Truckers for Trudeau, he came on record as saying this was a fringe group, right? A fringe group with unacceptable positions.
With 150 trucks.
And now all of a sudden Ottawa is claiming a state of emergency. Well, how? How would a small, tiny fringe of people with some very minority opinions create a state of emergency? But let me ask you this. Let me play devil's advocate for a second, because this is the biggest pushback I've gotten as I've sort of taken a stand with the truckers in support of freedom. What is the difference in your mind, Eric, between what's happening here with the truckers and, let's say, Black Lives Matter banners and groups loosely affiliated, or Antifa, blocking traffic in streets?
Well, we allowed them to take over a whole section of Washington.
Yeah. So what
We
do
allowed
you,
them
what
to
do you
have
think
their
the
own
difference is?
Green zone. Well,
Because a lot of people,
narrative.
a lot of leftists are saying, "Oh, it's okay when your side, quote unquote." By the way,
Interesting.
this is an aside, and I want to come right back to what I asked you. This is a little aside. Pay close attention, you MAGA minions. those of you that are so blind in your support for a person or a quote-unquote side, pay very close attention. Step outside yourself for long enough to go down the list of every single senator that is claiming to be your side, the red. How many of them have publicly and consistently supported the truckers? You better ask yourself that, because if they haven't, you're looking at the problem, because it's all the same bag of shit. They're all wanting to keep themselves in power. They don't care. They don't care. Just trust me on this. Take a look. Don't be blind. Be objective. Now, what do you think the main difference is? Because the conservatives, those minions, I guess, as I've called them, conservatards, they have one position, and then you got libtards on the other side. And the leftists are coming at me in support of the truckers and saying, oh, it's okay when you agree with them, like that you agree with the truckers, so it's okay for them to block traffic and to stop medical supplies or food chain supplies. It's okay when they do it, but it's not okay when Antifa or Black Lives Matter do it. What do you think about that? Is that a fair, valid criticism, or where's the flawed logic?
Well, I think where that logic is flawed is intent. So these truckers, they are doing whatever they can to get supplies in and out, and they have a good support and supply chain. And they are doing this thing ethically and morally, and not crying and throwing tantrums, burning things to the ground, spray painting things, blocking traffic just to be a nuisance. No, they're occupying the Capitol. They're occupying, what is it? What do they call it? Parliament or something? What do they call the?
Yeah, maybe. Parliament sounds right. Sounds Canadian.
But they are occupying and trying to leave the smallest footprint that they can in order to get what they're trying to do. And you see that the wiping down of the statues, the cleaning of the statues, the feeding the homeless. They're out there feeding the homeless. They're trying to leave open roads. They're doing this carefully, methodically. Whereas what you had with the Black Lives Matter protest, that was just children wanting to throw a tantrum. And so they were burning things down, vandalizing things, trying to stop traffic for no reason, trying to not allow things through. So I think, fundamentally there's a pretty big difference in what's going on in the way I see this.
Interesting. What do you guys think?
If Black Lives Matter would have went out and occupied the streets, right, and simply blocked traffic to cause a nuisance, that's one thing. But they weren't. They were hurting people. They were harming police officers. They were harming first responders. They were pushing burning dumpster fires, literally dumpsters full of fire, into cop cars that had an arrested person inside of the car. So that person could have burned
attempted murder.
They're looting.
Crazy.
They're stealing. They're not doing something to build their community up. These truckers are feeding the homeless. Black Lives Matter was looting and beating people in the streets for no reasons, throwing tantrums. And
what do you guys think? Wherever this clip is posted, I'm going to put this. I'm going to clip just that question. Underpaid producer, let's clip just this question so that we can put comments here. We're going to put this on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm curious. Find the flaws in the logic. I'm going to challenge the wolf pack. I'm going to challenge the listeners to think outside the box. Really think about this question and post your answer in the comment. Post what the key differences are between what's happening in Ottawa and what happened across many places in the United States during major protesting in 2020 with Black Lives Matter.
But what would have happened if the Black Lives Matter movement simply went out and marched on the streets peacefully? Or if they just occupied a downtown area peacefully? And if they really did things ethically, correctly.
No buildings are being attacked or burned. Truckers are not tossing bricks through buildings. They're not rioting. They're not confronting the police in violent manners.
Because what the truckers are fighting for is a real threat that wasn't drum up by the media. So what you had with the Black Lives Matter was the media, the ruling class, spinning things up for election purposes, playing with your emotions on something that didn't exist. So you had a bunch of dum-dums out doing dumb things. This trucker movement, this is a real issue. It's a real problem. And truckers don't want to cross state lines or want to cross state lines, but they don't want to do it forcibly by them mandating that they have a vaccine. They want to do their jobs without being forced to take an experimental drug in their body. And so there is a real issue there. That's a real problem. The Black Lives Matter problem was fake news. That was misinformation. You want to talk about misinformation? Let's talk about all the misinformation that was given during the Black Lives Matter movement. All the statistics about the police shootings that didn't really exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head for me. That was exactly what I was going to sort of like cap this little section with, is that exactly. One of these things is based on reality, and one of them was based on a lie. And that makes a lot of difference. I think that's super important to understand. If you're taking action based on something that's true and something that is a righteous cause, and people can argue about what's righteous or not, but if it's a true and righteous cause based on reality, that's one thing. If it's something that's based on a lie and is based on something that is not a righteous cause because it's not true, well then that's an issue. So what do you guys think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below wherever you see this video. We would appreciate the feedback to further the conversation. Continuing on where politics meets cop world, our commander-in-chief is really concerned about racial equity, so much so that he thinks part of that solution will be to hand out crack pipes. So this news comes from, I don't know what the source is here. I think it's important when we say something big like this. Total frat move. That's a reputable source. They have a lot of breaking news that just hard-hitting facts. But I did confirm this story across multiple outlets before I tossed it into our little Slack chat. But Biden administration to distribute crack pipes as a way to achieve, quote, racial equity. Eric, can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you read that for me while and start your thoughts on it while I urinate, because I'm about to pee my pants. No, 75 hard is really pushing the urinary envelope.
How many more days do you have of this 75 hard?
Last night was day 20 something, so I was 30.3% done as of last night. So 2/3 more of the days, whatever that is. Brother. I can't wait for that ice cold non-alcoholic Labatt Blue. Speaking of Canada, that ice cold Canadian non-alcoholic beer coming April 2nd. Ooh, I can't wait. If you want to keep the show going, or we can cut and then we can come back and pick up like I never left. Either way, I gotta piss.
I'm not sure how making it safer and easier to smoke crack achieves racial equality, but I do know that if the current administration wants to literally do anything, it slaps that label on. Let me reread that. Jesus. It's hard to read when it's small print. But I do know that if the current administration wants to do literally anything, it slaps that label on its projects. I mean, it is either racial equality or climate or voter suppression. Those are the only three things in their playbook. Anyways, back to why crack pipes are good and should cost the taxpayer money. The $30 million grant program will provide funding to nonprofits and local governments to help make drug use safer for addicts. Included in the grant are funds for smoking kits and supplies. A spokesman for the Department of Health and Human Services told the Washington Free Beacon that these kits will provide pipes for users to smoke crack cocaine, crystal methamphetamines, and illicit substances. Jeez. What is this article from? Scroll to the top.
Total frat move.
So yeah, I don't know what or how credible Total Frat Move is, but obviously this has been all over the internet that they're going to be handing out crack pipes. I never had a problem with the crackheads, except that crackheads will do anything for more crack. So they'll steal, they'll stab each other for money, and they'll do some fucked up things on crack. So if you're okay with that, if you're okay with people stealing from your cars in the middle of the night to keep their drug habit alive, if you're okay with them stabbing their own friends and their own homeless tent partners for that extra rock, if you're cool with those kind of things, let's keep the whole crack pipe thing legal. Let's not do anything about it. But I was always empathetic to the crackheads. You're not even allowed to call them crackheads anymore. If you say that on the street, you'll hear an earful from the local citizens in the area. But you want to go after the crack dealers. But we can't go after the crack dealers because, we can't do traffic stops for things like registration violations and insurance violations and things like that, because that creates racial disparity. So we can go into the white neighborhoods on the far north side of town, or whatever side of town that is for your department, and we can enforce those laws on white people, or not even just white people, but people that are wealthier than the inner city folks. And we can enforce the insurance laws and the registration laws, but those people aren't the ones that are dealing the crack, right? It's the people in the inner cities that don't have a lot of money that are selling the crack. So I as a law enforcement officer, as an ex-law enforcement officer, I don't know exactly what any of this does for racial equality. It doesn't do anything, in my opinion, for racial equality. All it does is it's just more virtue signaling, I think. It's like, look what I'm doing.
Found a way better article than
Well, put it up there. Let me read it.
whatever the frick you picked.
I mean, how many law
Like the
enforcement
frat boy
officers
frat
deal
boy
with
news
it?
isn't good enough. Hey,
No.
listen, in between keg stands, they're doing things that matter.
To limit infections among drug users, the Biden administration is creating a $30 million grant program for nonprofits to buy crack pipes. It will provide funds to local governments and nonprofits to distribute clean pipes to help make drug use safe for addicts, according to Newsweek. But, I mean, crack pipes aren't really that expensive.
No, good news, guys. The program is overseen by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So clearly this is for people's health. What? Well, why stop at crack pipes? Why can't you provide guns? Why can't you provide guns to people with bullets?
I mean, why is that racial equality? Why is that? Just make me
Because
understand.
white
I'm a
people
C
can
student.
afford crack pipes.
Oh.
Tell me,
So
tell me,
that's
you've
not
ever
racist?
listen in
Like
your
saying
privilege.
that
Have
white
you
people can
have you-
afford
it-
crack pipes?
Listen, in your privilege is showing so hard right now.
Sorry. I know.
It's like your privilege is only matched in intensity by your lack of melanin.
Okay.
It's
Makes
ridiculous.
sense. Yeah.
Okay, in your privilege, tell me, have you ever struggled to have enough cash to buy your crack pipes? Be honest now.
No,
I know. I really
I've
have
been
been
able to
thinking
afford
about this.
my
I was thinking about this
crack
on my piss break. Maybe Biden's right. Maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this will help cops. Right?
I don't know. Are we not charging for crack anymore? Is that a thing? I mean, I've been out of the game since 2019. Are we not? So wait a minute. If we give them free crack pipes and then we catch them smoking crack, or we don't arrest them for smoking crack anymore? That's okay.
You can't charge them with the pipe. You can charge them with the crack. Now, paraphernalia is no
crack
longer
is
a crime.
Felony, and if you have a felony, you can't vote.
Yeah, they drop the misdemeanor, keep the felony. You still go to jail at a disproportionate rate, apparently, according to the government.
Right. So doesn't that make just like more? If it's more
The
accessible
government,
to,
the government says Black Americans are jailed at a disproportionate rate for narcotics crimes, and so what will help that is by giving them the tools to make narcotics use easier and safer, and that way, when they are caught, at least they're healthier when they go to jail.
I'm so confused
at a
on
disproportionate
how this helps racial equality.
This is what cops deal with, right? This is why
don't get
politics. This is why politics, and maybe you're listening to this, and some people think our show gets political, but we're really not driving. We're not talking about politics per se, but it's unavoidable. Politics poisons everything, and it poisons law enforcement.
If you want
and
racial
this is why
equality and you want to go strong, then allow cops to go fuck with Asian massage parlors. Allow
Yeah.
cops to easily go and fuck with jerk shacks and glory hole shops and these sex shops. Why is I mean, I don't know if it is in your town, but it's pretty much off limits in Raleigh. I mean, I was told as a rookie that you couldn't even patrol the parking lot of the little 24-hour sex shack. And when
Really?
the 24-hour sex shack, on some random nights, like on a Thursday night, it would be absolutely jam-packed. The parking lot would be utterly full of people. And you could read on Reddit that they were having a glory hole night. So some chicks in there just sucking dicks through glory holes. But you know what? You're not allowed to go fuck with that. Because that's usually on the white side of town, I'm guessing. Or because there could be the potential of
one of your local city council members in there enjoying
probably
themselves.
getting in there. So you want to talk about racial equality? I don't understand how just making crack pipes is accessible to
It's so
anything.
dumb, dude. It's so dumb. And this is
Because that's
this
going to
is
allow more crime
crazy.
to take
Exactly.
place.
What are cops supposed to do with this?
Now I have
What-
my crack pipe, a clean
you
crack
want-
pipe.
This stuff just systematically dismantles the ability for cops to effectively do their job. It's insane, man. It's just nuts.
And by
what
the
what are
way,
we supposed to do?
crackheads have the reason why they're crackheads. I mean, I'm sure there's some like deep seated issues, but the big reason why a lot of them stay crackheads is because they're given everything. They don't have to do laundry because they can go get more clothes from the clothes handout. They don't have to have money because they can go and beg freely for their money and sit on the street of the corner. They don't have to worry about freezing to death because they have places of refuge that they can go to. Now they don't even have to clean their crack pipe. They can just go get a fresh one.
Yep.
Like absolutely. Why am I not a crackhead?
You're talking yourself right into it.
Oh my God. Maybe
Yeah,
I should start doing
it's nuts. We have basically coddled people who are not interested in self-responsibility into staying in their station in life. And listen, I know and understand there are people who fall into hard times that are sometimes circumstances that are from the outside that push you, like you were already paycheck to paycheck, and then your company, your small business that you worked for, that you were already working paycheck to paycheck at, gets closed down because of these kind of mandates, and now you find yourself stuck on unemployment because you're trying to find jobs, but a lot of them are maybe in your industry closed. I understand, like, people end up in difficult circumstances, but the help that we're offering, the help that the government is saying that they're bringing, is only further supporting staying where you're at instead of getting out of that situation. And it's so blatantly obvious to anyone with half a fucking brain.
Well, we want to talk about racial equality in Joe Biden. I just think that he's staying on brand because all I see him doing is what he's always done, and that's hold persons of color down. I mean, this is the guy that was arresting people in massive numbers,
100%.
writing laws. This is also the same guy that in 2010 eulogized Senator Robert Byrd, exalted Cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan, saying that he was one of his mentors and that the Senate is a lesser place for his passing away. I mean, this guy, the amount of racist shit. In 2006, he said, you cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. 2007, he referred
Cancel
to Barack
Biden.
Obama as the first mainstream African-American who is articulate, bright, and clean. Could you fucking imagine anybody else saying this shit and getting away with it? Back in 1977, he said that forced abusing to disintegrate or desegregate schools would cause his children to grow up in a racial jungle. Oh boy. Jeez. I mean,
But you know the
and it
answer
goes
to that,
on and on
he's
and
paying
on.
he's making up for all that racism by really making things equal by giving out crack pipes. That will help racial equality and inequality in this country. What a joke. And this is coming from our ultimate boss, right? As cops, the commander in chief. Like, you got the attorney general under him, and he answers to the president. Ultimately, the president is the biggest law enforcement officer in the country when you look at it from a meta level. And what a shame. And that trickles down all the way to the day. Well, what difference does it make to you? What difference does it make to cops that now are trying to constantly deal with the fallout of criminal activity that surrounds narcotic use that is out of control? And now the crime at the street level from cops working their ass off day in and day out to keep their community safe is now being hampered and worsened. The crime is amplified by the very government that's telling them to go enforce these mandates. It's absolutely nonsensical, the world that cops are being asked to work in. It's nonsense.
It's and you wonder why cops are leaving in mass, right? Like,
Yeah.
we have beards now, guys. We can have tattoos now, guys.
Band-Aids on a gunshot wound.
That's not the problem. The problem is that you can't do your job without the ruling elite trying to manipulate everything and hold everybody down and keep everybody the same. They don't want the inner cities to get better. Do you know why the inner city has been the way it's been for the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years in your beat? That not one fucking politician from the ruling class couldn't fix your ghetto, your inner city in the last 60 years?
Yeah, all of these major centers where cops tend to have the toughest time policing all have implemented these insane policies for decades. Literally at this point, close to saying the word generations. A generation technically is, I think, like 40 years, and that we're past that. So we're able to basically say for generations of leadership, of these policies, of things that are supposed to save us and change the world, and the cops that are literally the whipping boys of these politicians doing nothing, constantly working against yourself. One step forward, one step back, day in and day out on shift. I would leave too. Fuck, I did leave. Screw it. Like, no. I'm not doing it. And smart people aren't going to do it. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, and I can't do that here anymore. And that's really what this episode seems to be taking a life on is the cops versus the ruling elite. It's
everybody versus the
nuts.
ruling elite. So there's a documentary coming out on Showtime that's called Everything is Going to Be All White.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know if you've seen the trailer to this.
No, I've heard about
but
it.
But it's just, it's a deep dive into America's past and present through the experiences of people of color. And every person that they put on there, it's all hailing this Joe Biden character. It's all hailing this philosophy of the Democratic Party, right? It's celebrating all of these guys who are truly racist, man. Like all these ruling elites in Hollywood that are really, really fucking racist people. But then all the people who are really kind of against that. I really truly believe that Joe Rogan is a person who is against race. He's trying to say that, like, listen, everybody can have a conversation, and look at the kind of people that he interviews. And
yeah, go look at David Goggins' response to all this. He's a black male.
Yeah.
Why doesn't his voice count?
And so it's just, this is all just, and I'm glad that the ruling class is being exposed. And listen, I hope that everybody starts using ruling class over Democrat and Republican.
Amen. Amen. As long as they keep, that's what they want. They want us on the playing field to be in red and blue and to keep it going. The longer the game goes, the more overtime it goes into, the longer they are the ones in the stands kicking back and watching and maintaining their station in life. Enough. It's enough.
And I mean, it's so obvious now with this whole controlling of the media. It's so obvious now. And you really have to be a fool. And I think that only the fools or the people that aren't awake, and I use air quotes there, I think only the people who aren't awake are still buying into this whole left-right ordeal. And I think all the normal the people who are really, truly critical thinkers and free thinkers from every race, religion, or creed, we're all kind of looking at each other like, dude, this is nuts. Yeah. This is really, truly nuts. When you see the government being this blatant, this disrespectful, this rules for thee and not for me, I think it's all coming to an end for them.
Yeah, and people that disagree with them are a threat to democracy. There's something that came out from National Homeland Security just recently, I think like February 7th, that basically said people that are against these mandates, this overarching narrative, are literally to be considered a threat to the sovereignty of our nation.
It was a terrorism.
I'm not quoting.
It was a terrorism update. It was a terrorism threat update. And it was about people spreading misinformation, and anybody that has like an Army online account or Marine Corps online account, whatever, a DOD account, received this email. which is, again, more blatant propaganda that you're spreading, because what really is misinformation?
Exactly. It's propaganda.
Is misinformation the Wuhan laboratory? Because we all know that was bullshit, right? Like, it was created in Wuhan. Now it's common knowledge. Yeah. But if you were to say that,
it's common knowledge, we funded it.
And it was, but you were canceled. Well, if you were to say that the mask thing isn't working out that great, well, you were shunned, you were suspended. Now, 4 more states. Now, this is important. 4 states are dropping the mask mandate. And
even Oregon is dropping it.
Delaware, which is Joe Biden's home state, they're dropping it Friday. Come Friday, no more mask mandate. The most liberal state that I can even think of, Delaware. They're like, no, we're done with this. And it's no coincidence that all 4 states did this at the same exact time. Because if they did it one at a time, right, it would be easy to be like, oh, Delaware. Oh, gosh, you guys are not. You guys are stupid. Everybody, let's pick on Delaware real quick. Let's poke at Delaware for doing this. No, they all came together. They all knew that this was stupid. They knew they couldn't do it one at a time. So your 4 most liberal states, you got Connecticut, Delaware, Oregon, and New Jersey. and all of a sudden, within 2 days' time, all 4 of them say, we're now dropping mask mandates.
Nice.
No coincidence.
All right.
there.
Speaking of the ruling elite impacting cops on the street, this article from Law Enforcement Today, a policy that Kamala Harris touted as one we should have. There was a guy in Minnesota, despite and whoever wrote this article doesn't know the abbreviation for Minnesota because he did Andover, Michigan, and that Minnesota is MN, by the way. So if you're listening, Chris Elliott, you might want to correct that. Man who stated voices were telling him to rape children, released on bail after the Freedom Fund paid for it. A controversial group known as the Minnesota Freedom Fund has posted bail for a man who allegedly told officers arresting him for criminal mischief that he heard voices telling him to rape children while he was inside the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport, causing extensive damage in Terminal 1. And the Minnesota Freedom Fund, or is that what it was? Is that what it was called? I want to make sure I say that right. Yeah, Minnesota Freedom Fund. They are an organization that is against cash bail, right? And this goes into the whole race, the whole disparity thing, cash bail. This happened on January 22nd. Bell Mabungson Tosa was inside of the Minnesota-St. Paul airport around 4 a.m., causing a disturbance. So he's arrested. He hit a fire alarm box, causing the alarm to sound, and broke the tile behind the alarm. They get him into custody, and he's acting erratic and threatening behavior, forcing them to remove a taser, it says, in preparation of discharging it so that they could maintain control. He allegedly yelled, "Shoot me." They were able to get him under control, and he started making several comments about raping children, and eventually this Freedom Fund comes and bails him out because they think cash bail is bad. So then the cops have to they put this guy right back out on the street. Is that someone who should be out and in the street? So these policies have a real impact. I mean, we could spend hours and hours just going down a list of people who were incarcerated for crimes against, let's not even talk about rape or murder of adults, just children, sex offenders against children who got out on this bail reform bullshit and went and harmed a child again. We could talk for hours of examples.
Only time will tell. Only time will tell if this guy is going to go out there. But that sucks, right? Because that's not why we got into law enforcement. We got into law enforcement to protect, right? To stop, to be proactive, to keep bad things from happening. You know, people say, why are you hard on drugs? Because it's a proactive enforcement. It's to stop people from being murdered in the street, because the reality is people get murdered over drugs all the time. I'm not going to debate you on how the drugs got here or what kind of bullshit ruling class thing that led to this. But the fact of the matter is that where there is crack cocaine, where there is methamphetamines, where there are hard line drugs like that, there is a crime. Massive amount of crime. Because these are highly addictive substances that people will do anything to stay with. So, you know.
But look at Portugal. That's what everybody says. They legalized heroin. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so is Oregon. Look at, I mean,
Yeah, how's that working out?
My little town of Clayton doesn't have like 6 new organ transplants every fucking month because we're in such a beautiful place, and Clayton is, the Mecca. But, this is, and again, going back to why law enforcement officers don't want to be law enforcement officers is because you can't be proactive in fixing these things. You can't go be proactive in stopping crime if you were just going to allow this man to go out and diddle children. Because you think that the cops are going to be able to stop this guy before he diddles the children with these new rules when they're not allowed to pull the car over
Not until Minority Report is
registration
real.
violation?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you think that these crimes start?
continue to
What was it?
hamstring
The bomber for the
Oklahoma City bomber. He
Oklahoma
was
City
stopped
bomber.
for like a broken brake light or tail light or something like that. Yeah.
for a minor infraction. But we're
You
not
can't do
allowed
that
to
anymore
stop
in
for
many
minor
places.
infractions anymore. So how are you going to catch Mr. Sex Offender driving without a license on his way to diddle children?
Yeah. These pretext stops are important. We're not talking about, and I don't think cops on a local level should jam their citizens up for brake lights or for, minor things like that.
But you have
Awareness
to,
is good, but you have to be able to do something. Yeah.
You have to be able to pull people over to see what's going on. If you're in a high crime area, that I used to love the lemon law, right? And they deemed that the lemon law was racist, so we weren't allowed to do it anymore. But the lemon law, I mean, and look, I got in a lot of trouble. Everybody was doing it, right? Leadership knew that they were doing it. The leadership themselves, first line leadership themselves, would call it the lemon law. And then all of a sudden, I told another guy who was trying to make major, and he was a lieutenant at the time, but he was really, really working hard on climbing the corporate ladder. And he asked me, he was just kind of like sitting in a car watching me do a stop. And I did the stop, and the stop was like no less than it was no more than 40 seconds.
Yeah.
And I let the car go, and he comes driving up in his little unmarked car that I had seen him watching me with his little binoculars from the gas station, as if I don't notice his stupid unmarked Crown Vic. And he said, "Hey, I noticed that traffic stop was very short. What was that about?" And I said, "Lemon law." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Lemon law." He said, "What's the lemon law?" And I said, "Oh, I pulled it over for a minor traffic violation when I approached it. It was just a rando person just going to work. And so nothing more to the stop. So I just kind of go with a quick warning and get out of there." And he's like, "Well, did you run their ID?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I'm doing everything on indicators." And that person, and I had a rule, and everybody kind of had this unspoken rule. It's how I was trained, that you go for 3 indicators. If this person gives you 3 indicators on the stop that there's nefarious activity, then you prolong the stop. If not, cut them low. And the more you get, that's how you get guns and drugs. If I walk up to the car and the car stops, goes, smashes into the curb, well, there's 1 indicator. And then I walk up to the car and the dude's not looking at me. He's looking straight out the window, breathing hard. There's your second indicator.
Third one, he has no pants on.
No,
that's a one.
He
That's
fumbles
clear.
through his wallet and he's shaking. There's your third indicator that nefarious activity is going on in that car. There's something in that car that this guy's worried about, or he's got warrants, or the car is stolen, or something like that. But if you pull the car over for the minor traffic infraction, the person's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" "Oh, I'm on my way to Bojangles. I got a shift tonight. Starts at 9 p.m. What'd you pull me over for?" "Oh, sir, you got a broken taillight. If you just get that fixed." "Yes, sir. Do you want my driver's license?" "No, man, you're fine. Continue on your evening. Just get your brake light fixed."
Just making sure
And
you're
send
safe,
them on.
you know?
There's
Boom.
nothing racist about that.
Nope.
There's nothing racist about that.
Doesn't matter what the
Period.
color of the driver is.
Doesn't matter. If there was no indicators, there's no indicators, and you let it go and you pull over as many as you can in a night. One, it does a couple of things. It leaves blue lights on in your high crime area. And when there's blue lights on in a high crime area, crime goes down.
Oh,
okay?
imagine this. Oh gosh, you're talking too much.
Well,
oh my gosh, I'm
but,
glad I don't.
That was racist.
I'm glad I can physically resist getting turned on by your common sense, because you're just laying.
But that landed me in
Beautiful.
internal affairs to explain on behalf of an entire district of human beings that have been using the lemon law for God knows how long. But now I became the subject matter. I became the scapegoat, right? So I'm sitting in front of when I was taught to do that, right? Like this is a
practical law
genius,
enforcement meets political correctness.
Right. This wasn't C student genius Eric Tansey coming up with how to solve crime. This was like really good cops who came up with very good solutions on how to combat crime in high crime areas. But now I'm the idiot sitting in front of internal affairs trying to explain the actions of the lemon law, which led to a mass email and then a mass shaming, right? So these other low crime areas were like, "I can't believe you guys are doing the lemon law. Oh my God." Because like, let's agree with the man and not talk about the common sense that goes into the lemon law and all the things that it does. Let's go ahead and join the man because that's going to help us politically move up the ladder.
Yeah.
It's just all nonsense.
It is nonsense. You remember when everyone was going to fix all the problems with policing with body cams? You remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And
then very quickly, the court's saying that it shows cultural differences that juries can't understand. So we're going to not show body camera footage in front of a jury because they can't understand the cultural differences in the way people act.
It turns out that basically what amounts to a two-dimensional view of things can't tell the whole story. So we're not going to rely on that anymore. But the real reason comes from stories like this. Now that the data has been compiled over the last several years, body cams really got pushed on everybody after the Michael Brown thing. That became such a huge demand out of ignorance, I might add, because people don't understand all that goes into the necessary things for a law enforcement agency to have body cams. You have to save the footage because of the Freedom of Information Act. You have to be able to have the technology to do it. So they want police departments to increase the expense of body cams while simultaneously demanding that they're defunded. Again, the incongruence of thought in just about everything from the ruling class, the politicians, and police never makes sense. But this article comes from Law Enforcement Today. The left demanded police body cams. U.S. DOJ data shows they've had no impact on an already rare use of force. The highlights of this is that police body cameras have no impact on use of force or a variety of variables per the U.S. Department of Justice. Is this because the data indicates the force or the threat of force by police officers is... Can you continue to scroll? I need a mouse so I can do this myself. Data from crimesolutions.gov indicates that the police body cameras have no impact on use of force, a variety of variables measured. Officer injuries, officer-initiated calls for service, traffic stops, field interviews, arrest incidents. The Department of Justice article summarizing multiple studies is below. I'm going to focus on use of force in this particular article because it was the most important variable measured. Cameras were supposed to keep cops honest and eliminate unnecessary coercion. But the narrative is completely disproven by years of tracking use of forces on body cams. Nothing has changed. The amount of force, the types of force, the nature of use of force, the number of incidents, it's all stayed the same. Body cams basically have just showed you that cops really aren't trying to hide anything because the data didn't change.
I love what the Gators and the narrative part of that article goes on to say.
What does it say?
Because I'm from Florida, so it kind of touches me in a way that only Casey Anthony can. But he goes on to say, I live in Florida. Alligators live right behind my house in a pond. People see endless videos of gators walking through public streets and yards. Videos of gators being menacing are common. They have millions of views. Thus, I have friends afraid to visit us because of a perception that's simply false. And 99.99% of the time, gators do everything they can to avoid humans. As I ride my bike, grandmothers walk their small dogs through gator-infested park swamplands without care in the world. Yes, there is an occasional gator attack, usually when someone does something stupid, but attacks are light years from the norm. Yes, there are obviously times when cops do something stupid or criminal, and yes, when caught on video, it's seen endlessly, thus influencing a narrative that cops are out of control. Is the perception accurate?
Wow.
And it's not. And again, that's all the misinformation that was put out that we've talked about. I'm not going to beat that dead gator.
It says in the same article, and I mean, I have no reason to distrust this stat. I think it seems reasonable based on my knowledge and experience. Out of 40 million police contacts, 2 to 3% involve force or threat of force. And keep in mind that force is against any type of resistance, right?
Well, they remember when they were trying to really fix the narrative, and only cops could see this, right? So if you're a citizen listening to this, everybody has a use of force program, right, that they go through that goes straight to the FBI for statistical data. Well, remember when the George Floyd incident happened and everybody was really pushing that cops are out of control and that uses of force and the numbers came out that cops really weren't that bad. And again, 40 million encounters, 2% ended in force. So they moved that number right shortly after the whole Ferguson thing. they added handcuffing.
Yes.
To use of force. So what do you think that did? So if I put you in handcuffs and sit you on the curb because I'm in a high stress situation and I need to manage that situation, and it's easier to put people in cuffs to manage it than having people walk away from you. Or what if I handcuff you because I have to take you to jail? What if I just need to handcuff you to calm you the fuck down? Right?
Yes.
You're having a manic episode, but I don't want to take you to jail. But I need to also calm you down and make and let you know and get you back into reality that, hey, keep it up. And you're going to go to jail. So I can put handcuffs on somebody and they could be like, all right, I'm cool. I'm good. And then you can uncuff them. But now every time you put somebody into handcuff, that becomes a use of force. So what do you think that does to the driving narrative? So I would say that this 40 million, this 2 to 3%, shit, you got to take away 1% of that force used, because I don't believe that putting handcuffs on somebody is a use of force that should be added into this data, because it's taking away from the real force, right?
Yes.
But the real definition is supposed to be a force.
Yeah, this is what people don't understand. The amount, these 40 million contacts that they're referencing, that is a number that is, they had a direct reason to have this contact. In other words, this contact was related to the engagement of a law enforcement activity, whether that's a traffic stop or a dispatched call. That's only 17% of the country in a year, 40 million contacts. But got to understand, these contacts don't include literally becomes almost countless contacts that law enforcement officers have with people that are not documented, that are simply like, you have a conversation with a kid as you're walking through that school, doing a school check. You don't have the
hanging
it's
out
not
with
documented.
the gas station clerk. Seeing how he's
Exactly.
doing.
Having those conversations with business owners, saying hi to 10 or 12 people as they come and go while you're talking to that business owner.
The person that randomly pulls up next to your cop car while you're trying to sleep behind the church.
Yeah, exactly.
Wants to
The
tell you
person that
about their
catches you
days on the
peeing
road.
behind the business at 11 at night, whatever it is. Those aren't even documented. No. The amount of contacts across a profession that is supposed to be targeting people nefariously at an alarming rate, it is so staggeringly low how often that turns into an active use of force situation of any kind, whether just hands-on or a taser or pepper spray or a firearm or the threat of the use of firearm being introduced into the situation. It is ridiculously low. It's so statistically low that it virtually never happens. Yet, this is what dominates those headlines. That alligator analogy is so spot on, dude.
It is. It is, because nobody gives two shits about alligators in Florida. I mean, that's why you got little kids jumping in the fucking pond that says alligators in the pond, no swimming area. We don't give a shit if it's Disney World, and you let your kids swim in there and it gets eaten by an alligator. Now look, that story crushed me because I've got 3 kids and I let my kids get into some pretty dangerous situations. Again, trying to do the Jordan Peterson model, letting them do it carefully. But I mean, point being is that we don't fear alligators to the point of hysteria, the way that Black Lives Matter, or that the media would try to drive you, which, goes back to, again, the whole point, I think, of today's show and the proof of the media. The proof is in the pudding that the ruling class has lost their fucking minds.
Yeah.
And you've got to ask yourself, when they lash out, what are they distracting from? Because at this point, it is an utter distraction.
Right now, they're distracting from
trying to distract
Hunter Biden's connections in Ukraine, and they're over there helping protect the Ukraine because they gave him money.
Great point. Boy, I haven't heard about Hunter Biden in Ukraine in a long time. Seems like that would be.
But you sure have heard about Joe Rogan
news.
and the N-word, don't you?
Yeah. It seems like right now, because isn't there something going on in Ukraine right now? Is there
I don't
something
know.
in the
I
news
wouldn't
that's going
know,
around in
right?
Ukraine, like in the world? Or is there somebody, I don't know. I thought there was something going on with Ukraine, and I thought that maybe America had ties with this presidency, maybe the son, the brother, somebody. I don't know.
You just never know, do you?
You never know.
And
that's
know.
the point. And we have to wake up as a society and realize that the right is fucking.
They can't shut us all down. We need the wolf pack to rise up. We need the wolf pack to be bigger than our show. We need it to be everyone saying no. Everyone has to make Thanks, Jimmy. You guys can't see. Jimmy threw a wrench in the conversation real quick. It's a picture of an apple. It says, "This is a banana. If you see an apple, you're a right-wing extremist."
But you as the wolf pack, I hate to give doom and gloom without giving some kind of way to fix it, right? And I'm always trying to critically think my way through things and how to make things better. Go to these other platforms. I'm not telling you to listen to every episode of Joe Rogan, but if you support and look, Joe Rogan is a self-proclaimed leftist. I mean, he says that he's a Democrat.
Yeah, he's not.
Right? He was a Bernie Sanders guy.
He wanted. I think he voted for Bernie.
Yeah. So, but I'm telling you, is if you agree with critical thinkers and free thought, look, Breaking Point, that's another one, right? Breaking Point, which is a liberal news crew that separated from mainstream media to tell the truth, and they do a great job of telling the truth, even though they're leftists, but they are free thinkers. They are critical thinkers. They're telling the truth about the Biden administration. They're telling the truth about what's going on with Hunter Biden. They're telling the truth about Donald Trump. They're telling the truth about the truckers, the reporting on the truckers and how many trucks there actually are. They're literally going out and doing real journalism, and that's why I support them. Mm-hmm. But you have to go out and support these people. And I'm not saying that you have to listen to every episode, but you got to go and at least hit the download button. Give them a rating and a review, because the algorithm is going to crush us, right? Mm-hmm. You're not going to see breaking points up at the top of your algorithm to learn about them. People aren't going to advertise about them because they're pissing off mainstream media, and mainstream media is ruled by the ruling class. Yeah. So you have to go out and find these free thinkers.
We can affect real change.
It's not supporting by money. It's a simple hammering the like button. It's simple leaving a comment.
Yep.
Leaving a review.
Take over, because they want to keep their money flowing. If they lose their money, they lose their ability to control. So hit them where it hurts and keep them in check. We have the power if we just stand up. We can't let an elite class of 1,000 people in the world rule 8 billion people. That's dumb. Stop it. We have the power if we just say no and say yes to the truth, no to lies, and just live in line with that. It's not complicated. You just have to make that decision for yourself. You can't be complacent. Especially cops, you can't be complacent. You got to say no. You got to stand up to your leadership even. They can't fire you all. They won't fire you all. Stand up together. Police unions need to get a clue and stop worrying about getting 2 days back off of some stupid bullshit complaint that you're trying to protect an officer on. Stand up, you police unions. Stop being weak, cowarded, spineless fools, and stand up for the right things and say no. Just say, like, no, we're not going to do that. Sit in roll call. Don't go out there and answer calls. Say no, we won't do it. Oh, police officers can't strike. Yeah, okay, don't go on strike. Just stop being proactive. Watch what happens. People will get pissed. They'll demand change, and then they'll have to back step on the nonsensical policies.
Naturally happening in places like Austin. Naturally happening in places like Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, following up on that, the next story comes out. We read on an episode or two ago these exit letters that Portland cops were filling out. Well, Portland has lost so many cops, they're offering retired cops big incentives to come back. And out of this offer to all eligible retired cops, only 2 people even expressed interest, which is epic. What does the story say here, Elijah? Okay. The Portland Police Bureau said the mayor's recent attempt to lure back recently retired officers failed miserably, with only 2 out of 81 potential applicants expressing any interest in the Rehire program. Tom Wheeler advocated for the rehiring campaign in October of 2021 when it became clear the staffing shortages in the police department had reached a dangerous proportion. Wheeler said at the time he announced the rehiring program, he hoped to attract as many as 100 former police officers out of retirement and back onto the force. The mayor called it a short-term way to solve the staffing crisis because it bypassed the need for months of training in the police academy. And he's had these high signing bonuses for the police academy too. We currently have about 80 officers who will be eligible in July to retire. Instead of seeing them leave and our numbers decrease, it allows us a vehicle to bring them back. But it's supposed to have 882 sworn officers. By right now, the police force is 96 short. So that's like 12-15% shortage. I mean, that's a big number. But the program has been placed on hold because the city deemed it too expensive. So, yeah, keep up the good work. They cannot hold this forever. That's what I'm saying. The city will be destroyed without law enforcement.
We're going to see this in the election. So we got midterms coming up very quickly. And people are done. people
I
on
hope
both
so.
sides are done. And if people are
hope
going to
so.
start using their brains, I think the days of voting left because I have to vote left or voting right because I vote right, I think those days are coming to an end. And I'm a fan of that.
Yes.
Vote for who's going to be the best for
agree.
the country, whether it's right, whether it's left, or if it's some kind of third party miracle that happens. But that's, the other thing with the primaries, it's going to be interesting to see who else hits the chopping block and what other distractions happen. Who else is, because I think that's the thing is they don't know who is Joe Rogan going to tell his listeners, his 11 million downloads per day. Who is he going to tell them to vote for?
Yeah.
And that's what they're
thankfully
worried about,
probably
right?
nobody, like
He probably won't.
he just puts the truth out there.
He probably won't.
Open conversation.
But I think that's what they're worried
is a
about.
pathway to the truth.
That's what they're afraid of.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're afraid of. And that's why instead of focusing on a major world event like Ukraine versus Russia that will have an impact on our national security or other interests that we may have.
Big war's coming. Big government's coming. Tanstradamus. I said this on January 7th. My wife said, what do you think? Truly, there's never, we don't really see a huge change, between presidents. We don't see a dramatic
War
change
brings big money, brother.
And I said, well, we haven't had a war in 4 years because big government was not there anymore, or big government was in check for a couple of years. But now that big government's back, first thing that's going to happen, as I said, we will be back in a big war by July of 2022. Big government has to have it. They can't exist without big war.
Yeah,
and so
it's
I still hold true to that. And my wife actually the other night, she said, man, remember when you said that big government needs big war? And you said July 2022. She's like, I'm not sure that you're too far off from that. And I said, no, I'm Transtradamus, baby.
Transtradamus. He's pretty accurate. All right, one more article to lead us out here from our news roundup, and it is a little bit of a hall of shame, as it were. A police officer has entered the hall of shame. DeKalb deputy, that's in Georgia. DeKalb County deputy arrested on multiple charges, including sex trafficking, rape, and child molestation. Thank God he is out of the ranks. And who do you think put the handcuffs on him? Who do you think charged him? Do you think it was politicians or do you think it was other cops? Speaking of people who think cops need to police themselves. Who do you think did that, Tansey?
It was probably a citizen's arrest from a sovereign citizen.
Probably a sovereign citizen, maybe a local senator, congressman,
Sure.
probably put the handcuffs on him because that's the solution to society, right?
It was probably
right.
somebody from social media, actually. Social
that's
justice
who
warrior.
stopped this guy. It wasn't
virtually
other police
handcuffed
officers.
this guy. Virtually handcuffed him.
Give me a break. All right, Decatur, Georgia, a DeKalb County deputy has been arrested on multiple charges. Derek Gardner in the Hall of Shame now, forever. Age 34, on February 6th in Decatur, he's been charged with trafficking of persons for sexual servitude, rape, child molestation, cruelty to children in the first degree, enticing a child for indecent purposes, and aggravated sexual battery. The details about what Gardner is accused of have not been released all of the details have not been released, but basically it was found out that he was communicating with a 16-year-old girl on Snapchat, determined, by the way, by cops. That's weird. Another deputy, Deputy Lumpkin, sent pictures. Wait, I'm confused. I'm getting lost in these names. Either this article is poorly written or my brain is poorly working. But the Georgia Bureau of Investigation determined that Deputy Mason Lumpkin sent pictures and Snapchat messages to a 16-year-old girl. Photos were later seen by a 9-year-old girl, and it gets worse from there. Who's the guy that they said at the first? This age 34. DeKalb County Police arrested Derek Gardner.
34. In Decatur.
Decatur.
Well, you're scrolling, so I can't read that fast.
Gardner is currently being held without bond. He's been fired. Earlier this month, a Spalding County deputy was arrested and charged with contributing to the delinquency of... so we've got two deputies from two different departments in the Hall of Shame. I got it. What a poorly kind of written article. So basically they say the first guy that's accused of rape, we don't know all the details, but we know he's been arrested and charged. And this other guy was caught by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, a state agency for sending inappropriate messages on Snapchat to juveniles.
Yeah. Old Officer Blumpkin. Huh?
Wow.
Little Blumpkin.
So
Lumpkin,
the reason I bring this up is not only to publicly shame them in the public square the best that I can for being that kind of a disgusting human being, but to bring into light that it's not politicians who are coming to rescue these kind of situations. They're not coming to your aid to help you. They're not stopping these child predators who are wolves in sheep's clothing inside law enforcement agencies. It's just like the priesthood, right? A lot of people get into the priesthood not because they care about Jesus, but because they want to diddle kids, and they do it under the cover of religion. And it's the worst of the worst because they're using something in principle honorable to do despicable things. It's the same thing in law enforcement. Nothing is more despicable than a cop who is crooked, but even worse, the lowest of the low is a cop who uses the color of law to do despicable things to children. And so glad they were caught. But who caught them? Cops caught them.
Yep.
Cops stopped them. Cops brought it to light. Not politicians, not political pundits, not talk show hosts. Cops.
Look, cops. Cops are there for a reason.
Why? Don't put me in the room with Stacey Abrams.
Oh, that is funny.
Underpaid producer put me in a stupid room with Stacey Abrams on a green screen.
That's your mask.
I didn't have a mask on.
I going back to that Stacey Abrams thing, I like how her second apology. So her first apology was about, I can't believe that right-wing Republicans would use Black History Month to tear down a black woman reading a Black history book to white children.
Oh my gosh.
But her second apology, which was actually an apology, where she says, I'm sorry, although I only took the mask off for a photo opportunity because the kids were so excited and were so motivated by the book that I just had to get a picture, and I was social distancing. Bitch, you weren't social distancing. Look at that picture. You've got this kid's like basically on your fat lap. You couldn't social distance in that room because there's no room big enough for those thighs to social distance in.
Rumor has it a child is still lost in there to this day.
Yeah.
They took attendance and there was one missing.
Social distancing with her days. Holy cow.
That reminds me of a story.
What story? Tell the story, and then we're wrapping up. Give us a good one.
One time when I was in first grade, and our school,
Stacey Abrams came to your class when you were in first grade?
This 8th grader or 9th grader or whatever looked like Stacey. Like, she had the build of Stacey Abrams. And she was a cheerleader, and it was like the
what?
Whoa.
It doesn't make any sense.
Just listen.
She was the base of the triangle for sure.
It was like
the pyramid or whatever
the
they call
pep
it.
rally or whatever. Like, so kids who are going to move up in middle school, they know all the electives you can get into. And they had the cheerleaders running down a line, and they had all the kindergartners in the front row.
Oh no!
And she was doing, they were like doing all these like cartwheels and stuff. And Stacey Abrams, lookalike cheerleader, comes running down, and she tries doing a cartwheel. And she lands on a kindergartner with her butt, and the kindergartner was gone. You say it, she was like swallowed up, gone. Yeah, literally. So me and my friends, ever since
had to be
first
peeled
grade,
out.
Yeah, dude, we
Got
just
lost in a
joked
putty
about it.
cave. Oh my gosh! In a Stacey Abrams putty cave. Wow.
Well,
Yikes! What a way to end the show.
Come full circle. We have come full circle.
Come full circle here. And if hey guys, stop Asian hate. That's what this whole show is about. Make sure that you don't mock the Chinese people with your tone. I don't even remember what that acronym stands for. The SWA. Something Wolfpack against Asian hate. Stop standing with the Wolfpack. Society of the Wolfpack.
Societal Wolfpack.
SWA, baby.
SWA.
SWA.
It's our new shirt.
Well, the chat sure will be fun on Friday when everyone's watching this show back. Well, they'll be watching it live, but it'll be pre-recorded. And when this show drops, we thank you so much for listening to the Failure to Stop podcast.
I will be in Austin Friday morning. I'll be on the Drinking Bros Network Main Show. Mike would be there with me, except family first. On Valentine's Day, he has a special concert to go to with his daughter. I think it was Taylor Swift. So he will not be joining me in Austin. He'll be at the Taylor Swift concert with his daughter. But I will be there for Friday for the live show on Friday from Austin. I'll be in the live chat here in my Uber because my Uber I'll be in the Uber by the time the show's on. So I'll be in the back seat in the live chats. And then Saturday, I'm not sure what's going on in Austin, but I'm sure all the drinking bros, anybody that's attached to the network will all be going out. And I think any of the fans are invited. And of course, Sunday is the big giant Super Bowl party at whatever bar that's at in Austin. Go to the Drinking Bros podcast page. You can find the.
Cool. Well, I have fun
tickets.
watching that show. I have no desire to watch the Super Bowl. It means absolutely less than nothing to me.
Well, I'll be up there.
I know. I don't care.
I'll be up
I
there
wouldn't
on
watch
the,
it. If I was in the room,
talking,
I would duct tape my eyes and just talk to everybody. I wouldn't watch it. I won't watch it.
There's gonna be chicken wings,
It's part of me saying no.
nachos,
The NFL is bullshit.
mozzarella.
I won't watch
sticks,
it. I'm saying no to the Super Bowl and all their
stuffed
lies and hypocrisy.
jalapenos.
I'd eat food. Well, I couldn't
It's
because I'm
gonna
like
be lots of
75 hard, but anyway. That's a story for another show. We'll see you guys very soon. We're probably due for
How do you
a
wait?
pretty
Real quick.
cool
How do
case
you
breakdown.
what do you prefer with your jalapeno poppers? Cream cheese or the other bullshit that they?
What do you mean? What's the other? I thought jalapeno poppers by definition had cream cheese.
I thought so too, but the majority of restaurants, I think it has like some kind of like is it cheddar cheese?
Cheddar cheese is good in a jalapeno popper.
No, it's gotta be.
If it's
cream cheese.
any melted cheddar, any jalapeno deep fried with cheese is going to be a winner for me. I don't
No,
like.
it's gotta have cream cheese.
You can
or
put
nothing.
Swiss cheese in there, Monterey,
Mayonnaise.
Gouda, pepper jack, Colby jack.
all the cheese you can eat.
I must have had me about 15 jalapeno poppers. Number one, since I was hungry. Number two, since they was free. I must drank me about 15 Dr. Peppers and 15 jalapeno poppers at the Drinking Bros party.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good party. It's gonna be a good show. So tune in, baby.
All right. Can't stop, won't stop. Guns up.
Giddy up.